Hi there, my name is Renee Hobbs. Today is March 2nd, 2017. I'm here with the amazing students of COM 416 at the Harrington School of Communication and Media. It's the spring 2017 semester. We are in week 6, so almost halfway through the course. And I'm here with the amazing Matt. Let me just I'm going to pin you. There you go. Matt, do me a favor, buddy. You're never going to get in the media with a terrible framing like that, okay? Fix your frame so I see how handsome you are, because you're gorgeous. But that shot like this makes you look like you're climbing over a wall. That's much better. Okay, so Zoe, your frame, you're well framed. The only thing I would say is, in general, if there's a way for you to have a bigger expanse than against a flat wall, so next week, see where you can be in your house with good lighting, where you also have you can see back, because when you're up against a wall, it's just not a very attractive shot. So Hong Yen, I see you here, and the room is dark, right? But I can see your face very well. So you are using good lighting for your shot. So that's excellent. Kaylin, I think you look marvelous, and your background looks marvelous. I like the color thing going on for you. So that seems to be working pretty well. And Francesca, your lighting is amazing. Where are you?
I'm in my bedroom. I'm actually like in my bed.
Do you have fluorescent lights in your bedroom?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, got it.
So.
Damn. Obviously, fluorescent lights are really good for online video courses, because the lighting is great. I'm glad you're in your bedroom. The white background is very clean, and simple. So, I think it looks really good. All right. So tonight our class is really about the propaganda of patriotism, and isn't that a fascinating topic, right? So many things to do and so little time. But really the first thing I want to do is talk to you about your LEAP. What I'd like to do is talk to you about your LEAP 2 experience, because I suspect you had some highlights and some lowlights. LEAP 2 is a challenging assignment. You are invited to take a single piece of propaganda and critically analyze it and produce a screencast video. So let's just go around the room, a highlight and a low light of the screencast production experience. What was it like for you? Who wants to go first? Matt.
So I guess the highlight, I guess I would say, would be like, it kind of got me a little bit more used to like recording something without like really seeing myself, because I didn't really do like the whole like seeing myself and seeing the screen, and that was just kind of weird for me. But the low light, I would say the same thing kind of, because it was really hard to record yourself and like not pause and like stop what you're saying for a second, because like the recording's continuing, so like there's going to be like a huge pause if you like do that. I had to like re-record it a couple times, because like I would just pause too long and be like, oh crap.
Right. So those pauses, the challenge of managing the time and keeping it all together, a big challenge.
Yep.
Thanks for sharing. Who wants to go next? Highlights and lowlights of LEAP 2. Who's next? Kaylin.
I'll go.
Thanks.
I really liked how it looked in the end. Like, I think it looked very professional and more put together than just a PowerPoint or like just a video of me talking about it. I struggled to get it the way I wanted in one take, so I did like 2 or 3 takes. And then even though I watched the tutorial video about it, it wouldn't open YouTube for me, so I had to save it and then put it on YouTube. So I guess that was my only low light.
Wow. That's actually very helpful. I also had that experience the first time I used Screencast-O-Matic. It didn't want to link up to my YouTube. So I did the same thing. You kind of did a workaround.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting that you describe how there's this kind of re-recording or sort of practicing where it's a take and you're taking it seriously, and if it's good, you're going to keep it. But actually you do re-record, and it turns out that's what professionals do. So that's a good practice to learn, and I'm really glad that you ended up with something that you were proud of.
Yeah.
Francesca, what was your experience? Highlights and lowlights of Leap 2?
Highlights, I'd say once I started it, I like wanted to make it, I was like invested in it, I guess, because it was such a unique project. So I kind of wanted to do the best I could. But low light, it did, because I tried to be more nitpicky, it did take me a long time. Yeah.
That is a great way. That is a great way to describe the idea of being invested in a project, right? Yeah, because you probably, might have been a bit of a perfectionist, right? As you strive to get it just right. That's really normal. Okay, so now who is that real world Rel? And can you tell us a little bit about your Leap 2 experience? Oops, I guess not. Okay, so, well, why don't you guys tell me a little bit about the propaganda that you guys chose to analyze? Matt, what did you choose to analyze?
I chose to analyze a political propaganda video that was put out by Hillary Clinton about Donald Trump. And I mean, there was a lot of content in it. So, and the video was kind of long. So showing the video at the beginning made me kind of time crunch at the end to explain all my analysis points. But yeah, it was questioning his ties to Russia, and it was does he have ties to Russia, and all these different questions about does he have financial ties? Is he Putin's friend? Why does he constantly compliment Putin?
Cool. So you took the 2016 campaign as your focus, and I'm really glad that you looked at a pretty complex piece of propaganda. Kaylin, what propaganda did you choose to analyze for your Leap 2?
I did a HPV commercial.
Cool. This is for the vaccine that girls, I guess girls and boys, or just girls?
Yeah, there was a girl and a boy in the commercial, and it was two older individuals that had gotten cancer from HPV, and it was saying that, of course, my parents didn't know. Did you, Mom? Did you, Dad? Did you know that there was a vaccine that I could have gotten when I was 11 or 12?
So guilt as a way to do beneficial propaganda.
Yeah.
Wow, fascinating. Francesca, can you tell us a little bit about the propaganda that you chose to analyze for your Leap 2?
I chose a sweatshirt, a picture of a sweatshirt that had a feminist type quote on it. And so I talked a lot about how feminism is propaganda, even though they try to disassociate themselves from the word.
Wow, fascinating. Glad to hear that you used a fashion statement as propaganda. Dre, can you tell us a little bit about the propaganda that you chose to analyze for your Leap 2?
I chose a McDonald's ad that said, fluffy, tasty, and deliciously, and it showed the perfect mocha. And then I found a picture that had the reality of mocha in it, that had it all watered down. It wasn't the perfect whipped cream on it. So I put those together and talked about how McDonald's uses their ads to grab your attention, and the words such as deliciously, sweet, and all this stuff to get your attention. And I said that it's pitching towards coffee drinkers, and I said Starbucks Starbucks owners because like they're the competition, and like Starbucks is known for like their frappes and stuff. So like McDonald's trying to like take over.
Got it. So advertising as propaganda, that's a good topic. So I can't wait to read your view your Leap 2 projects. Today's topic is exploring the relationship between patriotism and propaganda. And in the readings, we actually ran into, 3 themes really. We definitely got to address the symbols of nationalism, right? For everything from flags to the Olympics to monuments to the Eiffel Tower to the space race, and got to think about the concept of nation as an imagined political community. And because nation is so abstract, it can only be communicated through symbols, and political symbols are a form of propaganda. We also got a chance this week to think a lot about the idea of education as propaganda, especially about the construction of historical narratives in textbooks, right? And then by reading Eddie Bernays, we got to understand a little bit about the concept of public relations by reading about the birth of public relations. Bernays recognized the power of events, right? Events, constructed, manufactured events that would get free news coverage and thereby achieve reframing of the client's interests in the public eye. So I really am dying to get your reaction to this piece of propaganda. We didn't get a chance to look at it last week, but it really nicely relates to our theme this week. The video called All That We Share. So right now, I'm going to ask you guys to click on that link. We're going to watch this short video. The focus question that we're asking as we watch this video is, how might knowledge of the political context of Denmark and Europe more generally shape interpretation and critical analysis of this message? If you're like me, you don't know very much about Denmark, right? So I wonder, how does this video cause you to have questions or wonder about what is the political situation in Denmark? Okay, so thumbs up if you understand what we're doing right now. We're watching All That We Share, and then we're coming back as a large group to discuss it. Okay, so it would be good right now if you muted your microphones while you watch the video. And
Dre Berry.
Okay, give me a thumbs up if you're finished watching that and that short piece. So first of all, I guess it's probably worth thinking. I put it on the Mind Over Media website for a reason. Do you think this piece of propaganda is beneficial or harmful? And how would you rate it? Kaylin?
I would say it was beneficial because it shows people that they're not all different, even though they come in groups where they think they're all the same.
Great point. Why do you think some people, you could see from the website, it looks like 20% put it as extremely harmful? What could possibly be the reason or the rationale for seeing this as harmful propaganda?
Is it possible that it against some I don't know, ideology that advocates individualism, that I'm not quite sure, like saying that we all the same or whatever, we all share something, it kind of omit the like the difference between people, or the individualism, or like the independence of some sort, might be possible?
Sure, absolutely. That's a great point. It suggests that us being in our separate boxes is bad. It suggests that being united as Danes is good. And there might be some people who worry about strengthening that sense of national identity now. But Matt, beneficial or harmful? What's your point of view?
I was going to comment on the question you posed on why it might be harmful. And I guess I would say that it could be looked at, like we were saying, as like a kind of a collectivistic view on like life and on a way to live in a country, you know what I mean? And like a lot of collectivistic views that have occurred around the world are connected to a lot of bad connotations, kind of like communist movements and stuff like that. Those are collectivistic movements, essentially. So when they're like advocating for that instead of an individualistic movement, like kind of like what we have in America, where everybody's an individual, everybody does as they please, everybody's different, you know what I mean? Everybody has individuality. It kind of like goes against what, like, I would say like the Western world has like taught us, kind of.
It's a great point. Denmark is a Scandinavian country. So they have a strong social welfare system, and everybody pays high taxes, but it's an extremely wealthy country. Everybody is well fed and has great health care, and everybody is taken care of, and the gap between the rich and the poor isn't as extreme in Denmark as it is in some other places. Yeah. So this piece of propaganda gives me a lump in my throat. I definitely have a strong emotional reaction to this propaganda, but it did make me wonder a little bit about Danish politics, right? And I don't know if it inspired your curiosity, but the first thing I did was I went to Wikipedia and I typed in Danish politics, and guess what I found out? Denmark has 9 political parties. 9! It's a tiny little country. And they have 9 political parties, right? With all different ideologies, from extremely libertarian and individualistic to extremely socialist and collectivist. So actually, Danish politics is highly fragmented, right? And so I do think it's important, as we analyze propaganda, to realize that we're seeing, in this case, we're seeing a piece of Danish propaganda completely out of context. We're not from Scandinavia. We're not Danes. We're not the target audience. So we have to really be aware of the context in which the propaganda was actually experienced, who the real target audience was, as we try to make sense of it. And sometimes we can be inspired to want to learn more about a topic to fill in the gaps of that context. So I think in some ways that I am really intrigued at the idea that critically analyzing propaganda might help people develop intellectual curiosity. And I hope with the Leap 2, you had a chance to activate your intellectual curiosity. Now, I thought I'd spend at least a couple minutes reviewing your tweets on propaganda and your video annotation. I did tell you that your tweets would be graded. You guys, I think, did okay. I identified what I thought were the strongest tweets, and I placed them in a tool called Storify, which lets me gather up examples of social media and organize them, right? So I liked Francesca's tweet about channeling people's emotions to create an efficient wartime lifestyle. Nicole's point about World War I as the first war that produced propaganda. And then Nicole's example about the turning your silver into bullets at the post office. So Taylor did a really nice use of comparison contrast, I think probably taking cell phone images of the book. But I love this line: once World War II was in full swing, propagandists needed to remind people why they were fighting. And one of the reasons why I liked that quote, because it actually made me think about like current events too, right? How, why are we increasing our military spending? Well, we must have something to fight for, right? Shannon's referenced the Olympic competitions as a form of propaganda, the National Guard and recruiting of propaganda, women's role during World War I. A lot of you guys talked about that. Alyssa talked about that. Matt, I think this is a really powerful concept, mobilization by shame. And the idea that men were kind of pressured in the World War I, men were kind of pressured into joining because their wives or girlfriends sort of made it a condition of manhood or whatever. That's a great phrase, mobilization by shame. I'm glad you found it. Hassan's acknowledgement of the flags being symbolic, and Stephanie, this idea that the propaganda was produced by the government, and there's a contemporary example of it right there from one student. Maddie did another really great comparison contrast, talking about how propaganda stories come from myths, old stories deep in the culture, right? Mythological stories about our heroes and connecting current events to heroes. So in this case, she does a really nice comparison of a historic piece of propaganda and a more modern piece of propaganda, both positioning the soldier as a hero. So I thought there were some really, really great pieces. I loved Nikita's use of the concept of charismatic authority. That's a concept we're going to dig into a lot later on in the course, but chapter 2 brings it up where propaganda really helps us identify with our political leaders, right? So I was pretty pleased with the evidence that I saw in the tweets of your good reading comprehension and your interpretation of skills. And I've just started looking at your video annotations on the nationalistic propaganda in history textbooks. And so I can't comment on that yet because I've just started to look at that feedback, but I'm glad to see that you we're able to recognize the powerful ways in which education serves as propaganda. Again, I really appreciated the good effort that you made to make sense of Eddie Bernays and to comment on it. And so one of the things that's complicated and interesting is you're reading Eddie Bernays in 2017. And he was writing in 1925 probably, or 1926, right? And so I loved the strategies that you were using to make connections. So for instance, Taylor makes this great connection between the way Bernays was talking about fashion as a form of propaganda, right? That could be manipulated, right? And how celebrities posting on Instagram is kind of the same thing. I think it was really smart, really good. And Taylor, you're completely onto something we're going to take on with a little bit more depth even in our Leap 3. In Leap 3, you're going to be asked to compare a piece of historic propaganda to a piece of contemporary propaganda and compare and contrast. And it seems like you guys are doing that kind of naturally. So I think you're going to have a lot of fun with Leap 3. Okay, so here's what we're going to do now, and for about the next 10 minutes or so. I found two really interesting YouTube videos. One is called Paid Patriotic Propaganda, and the other one is called Patriotism and Propaganda. Remember the media literacy remote control, the set of critical questions that you can ask, like who made this message, who's the author, what's the purpose, what techniques are used to attract your attention, what lifestyles, values, and points of view are represented, how might different people interpret this message differently, and what is omitted. I'm going to ask you to keep those questions in mind as we break into two groups. Group one, you're going to watch Paid Patriotic Propaganda. And group two, you're going to watch Patriotism and Propaganda. We're not going to watch the whole video. We're only going to watch 4 minutes. But that 4 minutes will give us enough time to summarize the main ideas of the video and then to critically analyze it by thinking about the author, the techniques used to attract attention, the values, and so forth. So do me a favor and give me a thumbs up if you understand what we're going to be doing. We're going to be breaking into two groups. We're going to be watching 4 minutes of the video, and then we're going to be conversing about that in the small groups. So I think the best thing for us to do is to break into the two groups. Okay, so here you go. I'm going to create the breakout groups. Dre, Kaylin, and who's Real World Rel? You guys are going to watch video 1.
That's me.
Oh, good show. Who's me?
Jarrell.
Aha, Jarrell. Oh, I get it. Rel. Sorry, I now see it. Now it makes sense. Okay, so Dre, Kaylin, and Jarrell are going to watch video 1, and Matt, Zoe, and Hong Yen are going to watch video 2. Okay? So before we break out into small groups, watch the video, and then we'll that'll help us make sure that we're going to stop after 4 minutes, right? So I'm going to mute my microphone, and I'm going to watch either group 1 or group 2. You guys ready? Here we go. Okay, so now is a good time to stop watching your video because you've had 4 minutes of exposure to those videos. So I'm opening up the breakout rooms. You guys are going to try to summarize the content of the video and then critically analyze the video. We're going to have about 7 or 8 minutes to do that work. Here you go. Join your breakout room now.
Hey,
Hi, how are you?
good. How are you?
Okay, so Dre and Francesca and I'm not sure which one did you watch?
I watched The Military Pays a Lot for Propaganda, which was so disturbing. Like, I know that they do sketchy stuff, but the movies part, that shocked me. Oh, so sketchy. So,
Yeah, they said that the military got script approval, right? If you use military equipment. Yeah. And so why does that disturb you?
well, especially with Zero Dark 30, isn't that movie like about like historic, it's like recent history of the military. So that's such a bias. Like, I've never seen it, but I knew that it had, like, I know what it's about. And that's so creepy that they can, like, it gives them so much control over our media. And, like, that's what a lot of people base their realities around, because we just consume so much through entertainment media. So if they can control entertainment media and like the messages in it, then they can really control the masses. So
Yeah, that was a very articulate description of why being freaked out kind of is a normal thing to do. We're going to be charged with summarizing to the other group other ideas that we learned in this thing. One thing I learned watching it was that the military pays for sports franchises $53 million. I think that was over a couple of years, right? And that basically all those patriotic displays that we see are staged, paid for by the taxpayers. And I wonder, Francesca, does it really matter that they're paid for by the taxpayers? And does knowing that change your perception of the value of those patriotic displays?
I think it does. Like, I always knew that had to be a thing. But even the stuff in the movies, like, that's just, people never think about, like, they always think, oh, like, the poor people are taking our taxes. That's ridiculous. Like, I don't know. It's, I don't know how to express how ridiculous it is, because it's absurd. And it's tricking people. It's tricking, like, because the audience is like people that aren't media literate, and just like, so it's tricking like tons of Americans into having a perception.
Yeah, and that's a really great point, because almost because the authorship is disguised. That's why you're using the word tricking, right? Because the Department of Defense is the real author. I mean, they paid money for this to happen, but we think the author is the NFL or the NBA, right? Or the soccer game, right? So we give the patriotic displays different meaning because we think the author is the sports franchise, right? And we're not aware who the real author is. Yeah, that's, I think, an interesting way to think about why when you don't know who's behind it, the propaganda can be much more disturbing and harmful. So why don't we take the video itself? I'm going to share my screen just so we can analyze. The first question is, who's the author and what's the purpose? The Young Turks. So who are they? What is the Young Turks?
Yeah.
So I'm going the largest online news show in the world, hosted by these two folks. The Young Turks was the first original talk show on Sirius satellite radio. We are a rare show that combines all the news that people care about in one place. Okay. I kind of do want to see the email address. Let's find out who they are. Advertising at TYT Network. Okay, so looks like they have a bunch of different channels and they're producing things like this, right? So based on that, what's their purpose, do you think?
They seem super liberal, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's such. I didn't even look at the name. Like, that's such an interesting name.
Yeah. Yeah. So they seem super liberal. So their purpose is to inform, to entertain, or to persuade.
I think it's to persuade. They're talking about, there's like so many pictures of Trump. I mean, it's hard not to talk about him because he's ridiculous, but like, it seems like that they talk about serious issues. So, yeah.
Yeah, and certainly in this topic, this is kind of pulling back the curtain on something we didn't know about, right? So it does have a lot of appeal because, like you said, we didn't know that the military paid for placement, of favorable placement in all those movies. Okay, so in the 4 minutes that you watched, what techniques were used to attract and hold your attention?
What techniques? Well, they showed like pictures of different stadium stuff. But for me, like, just, I think the lists of like the TV shows got me really interested. Switching back and forth between them talking and like flash, the jolts like kept me watching.
Yeah, those were really the two things. There was the talk show thing going on in the studio, and then there were like the PowerPoint slides, which had some quotes from senators and some lists. And that was going back and forth between those two things. I think the other thing that attracted my attention was the performance, right? They're kind of engaging and off the cuff. They're kind of a little bit playful. Even though they're serious, they're a little bit playful.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I think, that caught my attention. So the third question is, what techniques what values are presented?
What values? So I think it's saying to don't take things at face value is like the biggest, is their like big message. Right. And like the government is like I'm such a conspiracy theorist, as I said before, but like the government is in everything. Like we should not, we should look at how much power they have.
Right. So that's definitely a value message that comes loud and clear. Now, question 4, how might different people interpret this message differently?
So some people might, I think, because I'm like super liberal, I think of it as like, wow, this is crazy. But somebody that's maybe like more conservative or from a military family might find this insulting or ridiculous because they might say like, what's wrong with that anyway?
They might say this is a good use of taxpayer money because it reminds the public how important our military is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so the 5th question is, what's left out? And we only saw 4 minutes. So like a lot was left out. We only saw 4 minutes. But like, what questions are you left with now after watching it for 4 minutes? Like if you wanted to learn more, or if you wondered what more there is to say about this topic, what questions are you left with?
I'm super curious about John McCain because obviously, like, he's a war hero, but then he's also a Republican. So I want to know, like, where, like, if he's doing anything about it,
Right.
because he does talk about it, but I don't know if he actually is making legislation about it. Also, Trump at the meeting had people come that their families were hurt by immigrants. So I want to know if those people got paid for it because like I kind of assume that, but I feel like that is it's similar of like showing somebody in a like a populated, I don't know. Yeah.
And it is kind of creepy and interesting to think that like the people who are featured paid. Yeah, that is like it's a little creepy and fascinating. Okay, so welcome back. I think everybody, a couple people are not back yet, but why don't we talk a little bit about the two videos we watched. Matt, Hong Yin, and Zoe and Kaylin, which one did you watch? Video one or video two?
Video.
We watched video 2.
Okay, cool. Let's start with video 2 just for amusement's sake, right? Can you describe to us the video 2? And for those of us who didn't get a chance to watch it, tell us about the ideas that are in it, and then tell us some of the points that came up as you critically analyzed it.
Okay. Well, they pointed out the fact that the U.S. military uses Superman as a recruitment tool for the military, and they showed that like they kind of compare soldiers to Superman by like the fact that soldiers are citizens and they're also soldiers, and it's kind of like two lives. Just like Superman, he's Clark Kent, but he's also Superman. So they can kind of relate to that. They look at Superman and they're like, oh, like, well, I should join the National Guard because it'll make me seem like I'm Superman.
Okay, good. Anybody else in team 2 can comment on what did you notice about the construction when you asked who's the author and what techniques are used to attract your attention and what values are presented? What insights can you add to Matt's good summary?
When we talked about it, we realized how it says the director was it Zach Sniper or something. He's working with the kind of military recruitment, and how a superhero movie is more of a implicit kind of way of cultivating the audience's ideology, and how a military recruitment ad is a very explicit, but also is building on what people already thinking about, this kind of heroism and patriotic image of an American soldier.
Nice. And that really nice. Go ahead.
Oh, we also talked about, the association of a superhero, the symbolic association, like, the color of, of the movie of a superhero outfit or associated, kind of give people this kind of patriotic image, and how the portrait, for example, how the camera works, and to portray a superhero in association with the American military soldier or something.
Nice. So that idea that the whole bunch of symbols are being layered on all together at the same time. That is really cool. So let's go to team 1, Dre and Jarrell and Kaylin. Can you tell us about the video that you watched and give us a summary of the video and then some insights that you discussed when you critically analyzed it?
Sure. It was kind of unclear who the author was, but it was kind of just like a talk show setting. And they talked about how athletics are used as kind of military recruitment events, and how they make it seem like they're just honoring a veteran or someone who served, but in reality they're trying to recruit people, and that they're trying to make it more about military events and not as much about like, oh, getting free stuff because you're in the military. And the three of us all said that we didn't really realize that that's what the real goal was when we were at sporting events, because we had all been at sporting events, and even like they're on the basketball team, and they say like they honor people at our games all the time, and we don't really realize that that's the goal, is to sort of recruit. It's something we all didn't really think about before then.
Cool. So what else do you have to say about this video about paid patriotism? And what did you notice about how it was constructed to attract and hold your attention? Or how might different people interpret that video differently? Dre, Jarrell, Francesca?
We all pretty much interpreted it the same way, from like the way that like it was from the words that they used or how they portrayed certain things. Like she was saying, I never noticed it at all at our games, because even like when they come out and they like they present somebody, you'll see everyone cheering, or you'll see like everyone being happy about it, but you don't never really see the way that like it could like tap into somebody and they feel as though, hey, that could be me out there that's getting presented, or me that's being honored, so that makes them want to join the military. I never thought of it like that at all, and I feel like we all pretty much agree.
So we accept that as natural because it's natural to you. You see it happen all the time.
To be honored, yep.
But now we recognize it is a form of propaganda.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know why it is? Because I think all the kids like ages like 8 through like 12 like see like the fans going crazy for like this military guy clapping their hands, so like they get like influenced by it. Like, oh, I want that to be me one day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so the question is that a good use of our taxpayer money to have recruitment events like this paid or not? Francesca, you told me you felt a little bit tricked. Can you tell me a little bit about why you felt, when you watched this, you felt a little bit tricked?
I especially felt tricked because of how the government can like overlook entertainment media, like movies and TV shows, for like to allow the movie people to use aircraft carriers or whatever, and we don't realize how much control the government has over entertainment media. But we do know that entertainment media controls consumers, like it controls, so government's controlling us.
Yeah, I thought when we were talking about it, you mentioned Zero Dark 30 and how that was on the list of films that was, paid for or had taxpayer money paying for it, and how, so here's the military kind of telling a story that's very favorable to the military. Right? And so we think of that as entertainment. We don't think of it as propaganda, but these two videos invite us to think about patriotic propaganda in a whole new way. Okay, so I feel like that was a great discussion. I'm very, very pleased with how you managed that. And now let's just get to the finish line here. Let's preview the required activities for next week. Our topic for next week is war propaganda. And so I guess you kind of probably been waiting for this week. When you think of propaganda, you always think of war propaganda. Well, we're finally talking about it. So first thing I'd like you to do, though, is take a look at at least one of the Leap 2 videos created by your peers. And after you watch their video, tweet a comment or reaction. Be sure to use the COM416 hashtag and the username of the person whose work you viewed, right? So you can always see the Twitter handles of everybody in our class by going to the Twitter, oops, what have I done wrong here? By going to the Twitter, oops, hold on here, I just totally screwed that up. Let's see if I can make that work again. Select a window that you'd like to share. There we go. So you can always get to the class the whole list of Twitter folks by going to the list itself. There you are there, 25 members of COM 416. There's the list of the folks who are subscribed with their Twitter username. So you're going to give some direct feedback to the person whose video you viewed. Second thing I'd like you to do is read this short article at the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum website on Nazi propaganda. Use Docent EDU digital annotation to summarize and comment on what you learn. Be sure to make at least 2 comments, then choose an additional article from the list at the bottom of the page to read. You guys have all subscribed already to Docent EDU, so you know when you get there, this purple bar on the left-hand side pops up. We're reading just this web page, and you see how I used the highlighting. You're going to use the highlighting tool, right, to identify 3 main ideas and compose a summary that describes those ideas in your own word. When you highlight the tool, see how the little purple button pops up and you can enter your comment there. Then at the bottom of the article, it's a very short article, right? At the bottom of the article, select 1 article from the list below to read. Then place a sticky note at the bottom of this page that includes a direct quotation, a summary of key ideas, and your thoughts about the connection between past, present, and future. You make a sticky note here, you click on the link, you highlight, and then see how the sticky note pops up. So pretty easy to use. Okay, so that's a little bit of reading on Nazi propaganda. Then I want you to, again, go to the Holocaust Memorial website, and I'd like you to spend 45 minutes to an hour exploring 2 parts of the exhibit. Writing the News, which is a really interesting piece of interactive media about Hitler's use of media. And it goes through news media, controlling the press, controlling the press, the Jewish newspapers. What I'd like you to do is pay attention to when you see one of these things right here where it says explore in depth, because those are really cool. And they've got commentary from survivors. They've got really, really interesting content. So I think you're going to have a great time with writing the news and then defining the enemy, which is another interactive about how Hitler propaganda created the enemy. Not just the Jews, of course, but other outsiders as well. This is a really cool website, and you can learn a lot from it. After you explore those sections, being sure to click on the Explore in Depth sections located in the red boxes. Compose 2 tweets to capture the most interesting ideas you learned. This is going to be hard because you're going to learn so much. Be sure to use the COM416 hashtag. Now, I want you guys to read 2 chapters in David Welsh. They're both short, though. So chapter 3 and chapter 5, Your Country Needs You, and Know Your Enemy. And to go along with that, you're going to read, and then you're going to watch this amazing documentary, and then you're going to put it all together in a short piece of writing, right? So first you read, then watch Forbidden Films, directed by Felix Moeller. It's available for $3.99 as an iTunes rental in SD. It's like $1 more if you watch it in HD. This is an amazing documentary about Nazi entertainment films, of which there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. 40 of them are still banned in Germany, right? And as you watch, take at least 1 screenshot of an image from the film. As we're watching, we're really wondering about what's the connection between Your Country Needs You and Know Your Enemy and the Nazi banned films. So after you've read and viewed, I'd like you to compose a blog post under 250 words, that's just one page, double-spaced, that answers the question, in the 21st century, should Nazi propaganda films still be banned? Why or why not? Be sure to use the information you learned from this week's readings and viewings. You'll probably be able to use stuff you learned from the Holocaust Memorial website, from the interactive, from the 2 chapters on defining the enemy and recruitment into ideology, and this amazing, amazing film. Okay, so I think that's a summary of the work that I'm hoping that you're going to do for next week as we get into this incredible topic of Nazi propaganda. Probably you don't know too many people who are experts on Nazi propaganda, but by next week, if you put in 3 hours of really good effort on the assignments that you're assigned to do, you're going to be more knowledgeable than any of your peers about Nazi propaganda, a topic which is endlessly fascinating. All right, let's see what questions you have before I let you go. What questions do you have? What questions do you have? What questions do you have about this work that you're going to do this week? Okay, it looks like you have no questions. So it's time to sign off. Remember how we sign off with hand signs? Ready? Okay, so this time we're doing the hang loose sign. Ready? Hang loose. I'll see you guys next week. Hey, I'll be in Italy next week. So I'll see you in Italy. I'll be tweeting. I'll be participating to you live from Rome, Italy. All right, see you
Why
next
you going to
week.
Italy?
Oh, I'll tell you next
What's
week.
in Italy?
I'll tell you next week.
All right, I'll be in Bonneview.
Woo-hoo. All right, see you next week.